views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, this is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Today's special show will be with my guest, Arlene Lehmann. Hello, Arlene.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know. This is Patty's Page TV show. We're on every weekend. So we're going to do a beautiful interview with her. And we'll open up with that book that we showed you before. It's called Hidden Bruises. So we'll talk about that. So let's talk a little bit about your background. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Indiana, but I spent most of my adult life in Colorado. When I was about 27 or so, I moved to Colorado just because I had always wanted to live there. I don't know why. But anyway, one day I took off and I spent most of my adult life there. And then eventually I came back to Indiana.
And you're here in Fort Wayne?
I am here in Fort Wayne now, yes.
We're both in Fort Wayne. So this book, Hidden Bruises, it's how to recover from the trauma of domestic abuse and coerced abortion. That's really heavy stuff, girl. How did you get the idea to write this book?
Well, actually, a lot of it came from my own experience. But the way it really started was years ago.
Yeah.
I belonged to a church that had a lot of different support groups in it.
Oh, that's good.
And from that, I had been in, since I had been through a domestic abuse situation, I was in the group for battered women that our church had. So I was only in that group for about 3 weeks, and the leader said to me, "You know, you are a lot more healed than most of these women are already." She said, "I want you to facilitate this group." And I said, "What?" Because I had no training or whatever, but she paired me up with another lady who also had no experience, and we learned together, and we did this group for the battered women. Well, after that, then I developed a program to start an abortion recovery group. So when I did that, I started noticing that there was a crossover a lot of times from the battered women to the women who have had abortions. Now, not all of them, but there was a percentage that I noticed, and I thought to myself, you know, there is a connection here. And so for like about 20 years or so, the Lord started dealing with me. You ought to write about this, you know. And I kept giving different excuses. And anyway, meanwhile, I started collecting all this information and doing a lot of research. And so anyway, that's how the idea came about for the book, because the Lord put it on my mind, and I saw these connections.
And the age groups of the people who are being abused and having abortion, what would be the average age?
Wow.
that you have researched?
Well, the average age, that's just hard to say because both domestic violence and abortion are no respecter of persons. I mean, it can be any age group, any socioeconomic group, any race, any neighborhood.
It can happen to
It just
anyone.
pretty much runs the gamut. It would be really hard for me to say the average
I put you
age.
in that situation of putting what age group, because it's from A to B.
It is,
Yeah. Man and woman being abused
yes.
or doing the abusing. So, how did, why did you write, you wrote the book to help heal
Yes,
the people who are,
yes, and to give them hope, because when you're in a situation, especially, we'll take domestic violence, you seem so hopeless. You seem like there is no way out, and sometimes people from the outside looking in, they say, well, if you're being abused or beat up or called names or whatever, why don't you just leave? But you have to understand the fear factor of it.
Yes.
Because they know what they have, they know the situation they're in, and even though there isn't a lot of control over it, they know their boundaries and they have learned to survive. But then all of a sudden, if you take the thing of, well, just leave, well, you have a completely new life now. You have no partner. The woman may not have any job skills. She may have 2 or 3 children to worry about. So it isn't that easy just to pack up your bags and go.
so where could they go if they can find a way out? Some places where they can take them in and their children.
Yes. Yes, there are safe houses, and the church, I think, too, needs to be more aware and be able to bring them in and minister to them and help them in whatever way they can.
So most churches, are they like that, or you have to educate them?
I would say most churches are not like that.
No.
They need education. A lot of pastors don't really want to touch the subject, either of domestic violence or abortion. And they don't know really how to approach it.
They should be educated,
Yes,
even when they're going through seminary of any kind.
yes,
Christian
absolutely.
life. They should be shown that
Yes.
pro-life and abortion and wife beating or husband beating, they should be there as a counselor to help. They should counsel,
Yes,
to know how to.
and sometimes, unfortunately, the counsel that battered women will receive is go back to your husband and submit.
Say what?
Yes. Yes. They take the verse of the wife submitting to the husband as meaning
Well,
they
then
have to
that's
do
copying
whatever the husband says.
That's copping out. That's not helping at all.
Oh, not at all.
Contradictory.
Yes.
So, other than physical, what other forms of abuse would a woman may experience from her partner?
Well, verbal, being called names.
Control? Control? Controlling?
Absolutely control. That's what the whole thing of domestic violence is about. It's not about love at all. It's all about power and control. And a lot of women don't know that. They can be mentally abused. They might be forced to dress in a way they don't want to. They can be economically abused as far as the husband may be the breadwinner and have control of every money. She may have to account for every penny that she spends. There's just many different forms.
They don't understand that marriage is 100% for each person in the marriage, being one instead of being divided by abuse or
Exactly.
control.
Right.
What are some of the signs of an unhealthy or abusive relationship?
Well, some of the signs might be if you notice that the woman may be very quiet and not ever express herself, and she may get that from the control that she's under, that her opinion doesn't count anyway. So what does it matter if she gives one?
Why do the men do that? I mean, what makes them go like that with their wife or with girlfriend or whatever?
Yeah, it's just mostly the control and power issue, I think.
Where did they get that from their parents? Is
They
it an
may have.
unending cycle?
They may have. That's very possible. A lot of times it's a learned and copied behavior. And even the wife may have come from an abusive situation where her father was abusive to her mother, and so she has learned, that that's maybe a normal situation, that's the way they live.
And if the husband or boyfriend, whoever, that does the abusive stuff to the woman, if he can be shown or educated or healed one way or the other of that cycle that his family was in, if he can be broken away from that. See, a lot of churches, religious people don't want to have the woman and man to separate, because once you're married, that's it, under God's law. But what I'm saying is, when it becomes abusive, people try hard to keep the marriage together, but if it's too abusive and the man refuses to get help, then I understand why they separate. Right?
Yes. But that's, God's will for everybody is to be a whole person. And, I don't advocate for divorce either, but there are situations where safety needs to come first.
For the woman and for her children.
And for the children, exactly, yes. So sometimes you may try a separation, a legal separation.
But what if he comes after her?
A lot of times the woman does go back. That's very true.
Unless he gets help.
Because it's part of the cycle.
It is a cycle. I mean, the cycle of violence when the men and women when they're young, the way they're brought up, especially the men, when they're abusive, their parents are abusive to them, and back and back and back generations. But if we can break that cycle when they're young, and have the church, if they're religious, help the church pastors and reverends and all to know that people need help and they're crying out for it. That's why the church is needed spiritually, to help the parents, the mom, dad, whoever is being abused.
That's so true.
You talk about soul ties, trauma, and traumatic bonding. Let's go into that a wee bit.
Okay. Well, a soul tie, first, I guess I should explain what a soul tie is. And some people will say, well, the term soul tie is not in the Bible, which is true, it isn't.
That's true.
But neither are the words Trinity, and we all believe in a Trinity. rapture, the word rapture is not in the Bible, but you know, it's a common
It's
Christianity
understand.
phrase. So soul tie is being tied like with invisible chains to someone who may be not healthy for you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it is brought on by the sexual act, because the sexual act is not just only physical, it also involves your emotions and your heart. It involves all aspects of you. So a soul tie then is a tie, an invisible tie to someone.
Yes. And to escape from this abusive situation, how'd you manage that? How did you manage to escape?
How did I manage to escape? Well, actually, that's part of my story that goes back to the abortion. I was when I had my second abortion, it actually ended in a hysterectomy for me because my pregnancy was very complicated and I had fibroid tumors. So they ended up doing a hysterectomy. Now, at the time, I was more or less living with my boyfriend. And I was miles away from any friends or family. I had a few friends by this time, but I didn't have any family. So when some of my family in Indiana found out that I was having a hysterectomy, they didn't know an abortion was involved, but when I was having a hysterectomy, a couple of my sisters said, well, we'll come out and help you, you know, be with you and care for you and help you recover and all this.
They didn't know?
So the way it happened was when, now even though I was pretty much living with my boyfriend, I still have my own separate place.
Oh.
So when when my sisters decided to come help me, I actually kind of just moved, like I had a lot of my daily things, my clothes and makeup and whatever at his place. So I took them and I moved them back to my apartment when my sisters were coming.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, I am sure that my partner thought as soon as my sisters were gone that I would then go back to him, move back in with him.
Right.
But I did not, because at that time I had had enough and I knew this situation was not good for me. I knew I had to get out. And so that was my escape, even though it was that second abortion was the most traumatic day of my life.
Oh, shit.
But he used that, the Lord used that situation to help me escape.
And to heal. How did you manage to get yourself healed over the years about this?
Well, it did take a while. Probably my first step was I found a book written by a Christian author, and the book is no longer in print, and in fact the author is no longer living, but she kind of talked about abortion and she used scriptures along the way to help heal. And when I read that book, I could tell I started healing, and it was a very difficult read for me. Sometimes I could only read a page, sometimes at a time, sometimes only a paragraph or two. Sometimes I could read maybe three or four pages. I just
on your own.
On my own, I started healing through that. And then after that, I found out that there was an abortion recovery group. I had never even heard of such a thing, but the Lord brought that across my path, and so I joined that. And then I started, along the way, I started going to I found out more and more about different recovery groups and whatever, and I would attend them, and So it's been a long process, but at the same time, the Lord has healed me. He's shown me more and more. And I am just thankful for it, to Him and for Him.
We love you, girl. We love you.
Well, thank you.
You're not alone.
I know. And there is hope and healing for anybody in these situations.
So this book we're going back to now. The main crux of it is you can be helped, right?
Exactly.
And who can they turn to? Like we mentioned before, but it was good to say it again. If you need to be out of an abusive or whatever situation, especially from a man, what do? Where do you go?
Crisis pregnancy centers a lot of times give a lot of good information and have Bible studies for post-abortive women, safe houses for victims of domestic violence is probably one of the best places.
Is there
they can
any
go.
here in Fort Wayne?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we do. Off the top of my head, I can't say it. I think the YWCA is, well, they're moving onto Washington Center Boulevard, and they're going to, I'm pretty sure that's going to be like a safe house.
A Hope Center?
A Mother's Hope.
A Mother's Hope. That's different. That's for people who are pregnant and want to get away from abusive situations, and who have kids that want to get away. The kids are allowed in this place, or just 2 kids out of a whole bunch, and then someone else will take good care of her children while she's in this place, going to have her baby safely. This is a Mother's Hope. There's a connection between domestic abuse and coerced abortion. You go through this experiences, often struggling with tremendous feelings of guilt, shame, grief, anger, depression, and trauma. So in this book, like she had written, just talking about what happened to women who have endured this and how they got out of it and how they got help, right?
Right.
Right. So there you go. This is a beautiful book, and where would you get it? Where would you get it? Amazon?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of the major outlets.
Do you have a website?
I do have a website. It's called Healing Hidden Bruises, all one word. HealingHiddenBruises.com.
How long have you had that up?
About a year. It's kind of under renovation right now. But
they can
there's
still go,
you can still go and get some information.
What are you adding to it? There's more information that everybody needs.
Oh, I will be adding, I've done several more interviews since the website was initially developed.
That's good.
I'm going to be adding some pictures and stories, like of when I went to Indianapolis to testify after Roe v. Wade got overturned. I was able to go to the state capitol and give my testimony there.
They asked you to go?
I don't know if they asked me, but we went. There were a group of us that went. And we were allowed to give our testimony and to talk about the issues of abortion and how the harm that it does,
Mental, physical.
etc.
They also have now chemical abortions now, looking into that, get it over the counter or in the mail. How do we stop that? I mean, we gotta stop this. Killing our babies is not right. Like I said before we started this show, A touch of life was given by God. Only through Him they should die, not by another human being for money or whatever. What would you like to say to my audience?
To men?
What would you like to say to my audience?
Oh, to the audience, just mostly that there is hope and healing, and that your situation is not hopeless, that God will provide a way. He'll provide a way out. He will provide healing from your heart and your emotions, and just that He is there for you, even though you don't maybe not see Him or feel Him. He is there. He sees you in your pain,
And you have
and
to,
He loves you, and He forgives you.
and you want to have help, not have it forced on you. You want to be at that stage to get help. The Lord will help you. Thank God for that. This is Patty Hunter, Patty's Page. Thank you, Arlene Lehmann.
Thank you.
Oh, there's one pause. Anyway, we'll see you next week, and God bless. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us always, and for the rest of our lives.